Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu 5 and today I'm going to be doing a catalog walkthrough. I decided to pick this particular catalog because you don't really hear a lot about Randall knives on YouTube. I don't think a lot of people get these catalogs. I don't know if the knife community in general knows about these catalogs. If you live in the United States, these catalogs are free. And it's interesting because there's really no good Randall knife review on YouTube. Those people who are making kind of commercials about selling their Randalls, those people who show collections of their Randall knives and the ones that they collected and how much they're worth. And there's a few videos by servicemen and people unboxing them and saying that they're going to carry them, but you really don't see any reviews on Randall knives. Someday I hope to change that. But yes, when you first get into the knife scene, one of the first catalogs you get is Bud K, maybe Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and then when you kind of progress into your knife collecting career or knife using career, you get Cold Steel, Spyderco, Benchmade catalogs. They're all awesome catalogs, but this one to me is something kind of special, just because the knives are so sought after, and it's such a small operation. It's a cool catalog just to kind of walk through and look at and window shop. Hopefully I won't be window shopping for too long, but yeah, so I thought I'd go through this catalog, show you some stuff, give you some of my personal opinions on some of the knife designs, and let's get started. This happens to be the 75th anniversary catalog of the knife company Randall Made Knives in Orlando, Florida. And it's funny, the interesting story about Randall Made Knives, I'll put this down here. He started off making knives because he came across this young man, not young man, but this man carving out or scraping paint off of an old boat with a hand-forged knife. It was like a really nice knife, and the guy was kind of, in Bo Randall's opinion, abusing it, and he bought the knife off of the guy who was using it. He looked at it, he fondled it, and he was like, man, and he got inspired. So he started making sporting knives for himself, his friends. He started selling a few of them. And around World War II, some people got a hold of his knives, and when the others saw how great the quality was of his knives, he started getting all these calls from military folk. Hey, I want this knife, I want this knife. And around that time, it was a 1-year waiting period to get a knife. But these knives were so much better quality than any of the other fighting knives out at that time that there was a significant demand for it. In fact, Ronald Reagan, it talks about in this catalog, was an Air Force captain in World War II, and he was so enthusiastic about his first Randall, he bought 2 more, saying to the Randall Company, I have become your personal representative. So yeah, if Ronald Reagan thinks they're good knives, they ought to be good knives. But it talks about a little bit of their philosophy. It has a history, a brief history of the knife company, and let's see, let's get to the actual product. This is the knife that made Randall famous. This is the model number 1, and I'm willing to say it's a very good interpretation of a small Bowie knife. It has a sharpened false edge, which, technically speaking, all false edges are sharp. If it's not sharp, then it's not a false edge; it's a swedge. You got a decent guard, a double guard, level stacked handles. This was popular at the time. K-Bar had this style of handle. The leather washers, and this is the knife that started it all. This is what made Randall famous. This is the 15 and that's the 14. They're basically the same knife except one is smaller than the other, and this is just a beefed up version of the number 1. And you can get just about any knife in this catalog custom ordered from the factory. The problem that most people have with doing that though is it's a 5-year wait now. So you make your order, you wait 5 years, you get your knife. There's ways around that, but yeah, it's a long wait for a knife, and that's about it. It's a long wait for a knife. We're going to talk about that knife here pretty soon. That's the Model 16-7 Special Purpose Fighter number 1. It's a stainless steel version of the number 1 with a heavier duty tang and micarta. Now let's talk about at least these two knives. Not so much that one, but these two. Any of you who are familiar with World War II fighting knives will recognize, well, this knife got its inspiration from the Fairbairn Sykes dagger, which has a very interesting history. Mostly a history of failure and just horribleness, failure, lackluster, crappy knife to have in a fighting situation. And the big legacy behind the Fairbairn Sykes knife is everybody trying to make a knife like it, but good. Try to redesign the knife to fix the problems that that particular knife had. And this is the Randall made knife's answer to that. It's the model number 2 fighting stiletto, and they got the model 2.5, which is a letter opener, or they call it the letter opener. It's just a smaller version of the 2, but it has the same commando Coke bottle shaped handle, double-edged dagger. It's definitely a lot beefier than the Fairbairn Sykes, and this is also very popular with military. So a lot of people either get the 1 or the 2, the model number 1 or the model number 2, and these come in 6, 7, and 8 inch. And I'm willing to say, right behind the Cold Steel Taipan, this is my favorite dagger. I haven't held one or handled one, but just looking at it at the catalog, and it's the same thing for the Taipan. I never actually handled the Taipan, but those two, looking at them in the catalog and stuff, look like they're decent daggers. This is Randall's interpretation of a hollow-handled survival knife. They come sawbacks. It's also worth mentioning that almost all Randall made knives are hand forged with no jigs or patterns. They're hand forged by craftsmen. There's like 2 or 3 knives that are not hand forged, but they're equally as expensive. And even these, I think these are hand forged. Let me see. Yeah, they are. But as a hollow handle knife, probably the best quality hollow handle knife you're gonna get. Maybe the Chris Reeve might be another good one. But yeah, next page. Now this is where things get interesting. By the way, this particular knife is not hand forged, but you got the Model 16 dive knife, which you can get with a double guard, and you have the Model 16-7 SP1, which is basically the same knife but with a number 1 style blade. So the main difference between the two knives is, this one has the number 1 style blade and it has a standard, I think, A sheath, and this one you can either get with a leather or a beeswax impregnated leather sheath, or a Cadora sheath, or black nylon sheath upon request. So this one, if I were to get it, because I am a scuba diver, and I'd probably be more likely to carry a dive knife than like the fighting utility knife. This one you can dive with and swim with right out of the box. On the other hand, This knife has a very cool blade profile. It's very much the same as the Dival as opposed to the from heel back. But it comes with a standard leather sheath. Keep in mind that comes with an India stone in a pouch on the sheath. So if you want to use this as a hunting knife, and by the way, almost all of the Randall knives, the number 1s, the 1415, these, I think these also have them. Almost all the Randall knives come with a sheath with a India stone with it. But yeah, this one comes with a standard leather sheath, so I would have to get a custom sheath made if I wanted to scuba dive with it, which isn't a big issue. But yeah, I'm looking at this one. I was like, oh man, this knife is sexy. You can get it with different handle profiles, as with this one. Although I'm not a big fan of the finger cutouts, but for a dive knife, it might be more appropriate, especially if you're wearing gloves. These both have a sharpened or a false edge. They both have false edges, not swedges. Although if you custom order it, you can get it with a swedge instead of false edge. But yeah, I think this one cost a little bit more than this one. But those are the two knives that I'm really interested in. To me, there's something I could actually use. They got some awesome camp and sporting knives. Those particular ones aren't my favorite. But I'll let you look at some of these. They're cool. They're just not doing anything for me. I'll show you one that I really like. Right there. That is the Bushmaster Model 19. It has a false edge, which I don't know exactly why it has the false edge. They say it's good for cutting stuff that might be too aggressive for a final cutting edge. Maybe you can use it with the upstroke to do a belly cut on a deer. But yes, if I was hunting on a regular basis, i.e. I was a professional hunter, especially for whitetail, pronghorn, largely non-dangerous game, I would have that knife. I love it. And it just looks good to me. I love the way that the handle and the blade, how it's all set together. And I love it. It's an expensive knife. It's on eBay. I found one for $600. I think it was a buy it now. This one right here was also cool. It's a little bit bigger game. Good skinning blade. But yeah, that one just really speaks to me. The Bushmaster. The Yukon Skinner right there. Also cool, but not as cool as the Bushmaster. Alright, this is the first catalog that features a miniature knife in the catalog. Usually those are non-catalog items. This is the Trailblazer and a mini Trailblazer. But let's look at the Bowies, because you know I'm a Bowie knife fan. And all the Bowie knives have the model number 12, but there's different models of the number 12. This is the barrel Bowie, the sportsman's Bowie, the 6-inch sportsman's Bowie, and the little barrel Bowie. These two I do not like whatsoever. The sportsman's Bowie, the standard one, okay. If I was like maybe hunting in Alaska or someplace that had barrels or some sort of dangerous game, I could see myself carrying the barrel Bowie. It would be a good utility skinning blade, but it also has all of these have a false edge, and I believe that if the worst case scenario happened, that you're being attacked by a barrel and you can't shoot it for whatever reason, or maybe you shot it and it's still attacking you, I think that knife can come in handy. This one would too, but that one for me just seems better for whatever reason. I don't know. There was actually one of these in my local custom knife shop in my town, but I don't think I'll be getting that one anytime soon. These are the other number 12s. Some of y'all would recognize that one. That is the Smithsonian Bowie, the Confederate Bowie, and the Raymond Thorpe Bowie. And I'm not a really big fan of Randall made knife Bowies, which is strange because I like Bowies, but you know, they just don't do it for me. They don't look traditional to me, or they don't look like what I would picture a 19th century Bowie should look like. The Smithsonian Bowie is named that because it's in the Smithsonian, and it's modeled after the Iron Mistress Bowie. So if you watch John Fitson, you probably know about the Iron Mistress Bowie, and I've actually watched the movie myself. It's a cool movie, not very historically accurate, but it's a cool movie. This is modeled after that movie prop knife. Confederate Bowie, let's see, it's 11 inches. It's not bad. It's just I prefer the Bowies being put out by Cold Steel and the ABS Master Smiths. And the Thorpe Bowie is just ridiculously large. It is 13 inches. When it comes to Bowies, I wouldn't go any bigger than 12 inches. And to me, that's pushing it. If you get a big Bowie like this, 13, 14, 15, 16 inches, however much longer than 12 inches, I kind of expect to see a D-guard on it. And D-guards aren't necessarily practical this day and age, but when I saw Bowies that were, let's just say, well, I take that back. The Bowie number 1 was a very large knife, didn't have a D-guard. But in general, the big Bowies had D-guards. There was a few Bowies that were this big that didn't have them. Davy Crockett's Bowie was fairly large. It was a Shively. But yes, I'm not a big fan of the Randall made knife Bowies in general. I'm not saying that if I received one as a gift, I wouldn't be ecstatic, but it's not something that I'd personally spend my money on. I'd rather get something made by Bill Bagwell, Jerry Fisk, Ruthless Knives. This, however, was a different story. This is an Arkansas toothpick. A lot of people call Bowies Arkansas toothpicks, which I think that's because of the the English in Sheffield, England, marketing their knives to frontiersmen. They knew that the Bowie was, or James Black was making knives in Arkansas, so they called their Bowie knives Arkansas toothpicks. Now, I'm not saying that as fact, I'm just saying that's what I've came up with. But there was actually a knife design called the Arkansas toothpick that's not necessarily a quote-unquote Bowie, although you can argue that this is a Bowie because Bowies come in all shapes and sizes. But this style of knife is called an Arkansas toothpick. And they got it's the Model 13, they got the small, which is, to me, not cool, and they got the standard size one, 12-inch blade, mostly a stabbing weapon. This was the competitor to the Bowie knife back in the day. During the Civil War, a little bit before that, you know, you usually carried a Bowie knife, or what we think of as Bowie knife, or you carried one of these, or you might carry a push staggle. But this was like the big competition to the Bowie knife. In fact, I think in the Iron Mistress, the bad guy in the movie used this knife, or this type of knife, and Alan Ladd used the Iron Mistress Bowie, and of course the Iron Mistress Bowie wins over this. If I was a rich man, I would buy this, and if I lived in Arkansas, visited Arkansas, I would carry this. But also, if I was a rich man and I was visiting Arkansas, like I usually visit Arkansas once a year or something, I would also carry a Bill Bagwell Bowie, a Jerry Fisk Bowie, Ruthless Knives Bowie, or the Cold Steel Bowies. I would carry those. But I think this would be a very good weapon indeed. Just not what we think, just not a Bowie knife per se. And this talks about some of the legend behind the Bowie knife, about the sandbar duel, and they go on to say that the some people consider the number one to be a refinement of the Bowie, which I'm willing to agree with. It doesn't fit the specs of the typical fighting Bowie or outdoors Bowie by being 9 inches or bigger. You're not necessarily going to split skulls with it, but I'm willing to say it's a good small Bowie knife or medium-sized Bowie knife. This talks some more about the knife's construction. How long is this video gonna be? Oh yeah, there's a little display right there with a key. This talks about some of the different features you can get put on the knife. By the way, those little chef's knife. That knife is not hand forged, but equally expensive. This talks about the handle material you can get, the different handle designs, and butt caps or pommels. On the next page, the different guards that they have and other features you can get. Those are not hand forged, but they're also equally expensive. And it talks about those sheaths that they come with, and finally sharpening and the process of making a forged Randall made knife. Just to go over some of the prices, got this knife out for you to look at. This is not a Randall knife. It is a kind of a poor man's Randall knife. It's only single edge. It's modeled after the number one. It's a blackjack number one. And let's see, I got the prices for the number one, the one that's similar to this but way cooler. From the factory, it costs $375, no bells and whistles, which is a very doable price even for standard or the average knife nut. You know, save up a couple months. Don't buy the new Cold Steels or Spydercos when they first come out. You can get that knife. That's a doable price. But you have to wait 5 years to get it. On the other hand, you can go through a dealer and you can buy this type of knife from a dealer. It's going to cost you over $500. You're paying a premium to get it now, or in some cases in a couple of months, as opposed to getting it ordered directly from the factory. So $375 for this type of knife, you know, from the factory. But as always, if you get it from a dealer, it's going to cost a little bit more. Even through eBay, depending on the auction, you might get it a little bit cheaper on eBay, but most likely you're going to pay a premium even on eBay. These Model 16.7 Special Purpose Fighter number one, the knife that I thought about getting for a dive knife, but doesn't have the dive knife sheath, is $415. Through a dealer, you're going to pay $555 for that knife. Again, that's just a standard base model version of that knife. And the where is it? The 16.7 $415 as well. But that's with base model. That's probably going to be the single guard design, like it shows right here. That's with a single guard. You can get it custom ordered with the double guard, which I want the double guard one, and you can get it through a dealer, and it's going to cost around $545, somewhere around there. Let's see. Let's look at the Bowies. Where are the Bowies? The Smithsonian Bowie, $650. That's straight from the factory. So you know when you get it through a dealer or through eBay, it's going to cost well over $1,000. I know that from experience looking them up on the computer. Same thing with the Sportsman's Bowies, the barrel Bowies. The barrel Bowie is usually around $600. Yeah, they're just expensive. The 1312, which is the one that I like, $650. It cost over $1,000 through a dealer or eBay, but I like it. And of course, this price guide that I'm looking at has how much the extra features customization will cost and how much the book costs. They have a book. Let's see. Where is the book? Can't find it. But look, here's some handle materials, and that's how much they cost to add those to it. Randall knives are not necessarily the cheapest knife. It's a custom quality hand-forged knife, and I think they're completely worth it. And the good news about a Randall knife, they hold their value. So you can pretty much guarantee if you get your knife, you'll be able to get more, the same price or more for the knife than you spent for it. And lastly, here is the non-catalog items. They got a sheep's foot kind of chef's knife. These are called the combat companions. I wouldn't mind having one of those, but they're equally as expensive as like the full-size ones. Those are mini number 2 carving knives. This is a sportsman's Bowie. Little bitty knife. Don't know what I'd use that for. Oh well. But yes, I'm going to end this video before it gets too long. It's probably ridiculously long right now. I wanted to share the Randall catalog with you, and congratulations to all of you who stayed through the whole entire video. You get the grand prize of sharing the experience with me. That's it. Hope y'all have a great day. I'm a thru, and I'm out.